The galaxy was vast, almost infinite, filled with countless civilizations that had risen and fallen over millions of years. Among these civilizations, the Galactic Concord stood as one of the most powerful and influential. The council members of the Concord were ancient beings wise and calculating, who believed they had seen it all. They prided themselves on their ability to control weaker species, guiding or manipulating them into serving the greater good of the Concord. But there was one planet they never took seriously. Earth. Earth. A small blue dot in the corner of the Milky Way was home to humanity, a species the Council dismissed as primitive, chaotic, and hopelessly divided. For centuries, the Council monitored Earth from afar, watching as humanity bickered among themselves, waged wars, and struggled to survive. To the Council, humans were like ants, numerous but insignificant. Yet, despite their flaws, there was something about humanity that intrigued the Council. Humans were unpredictable, creative, and stubborn. These traits made them fascinating to observe but ultimately unworthy of serious attention. At least that's what the Council thought. But then, everything changed. It began in Antarctica, where a team of scientists had been drilling deep into the ice to study ancient climate patterns. What they found buried beneath layers of frozen history was not rock or sediment, but something far stranger, an alien artifact. The object was smooth, metallic, and unlike anything anyone had ever seen. It pulsed faintly as if alive and emitted a low hum that sent shivers down the spines of those who approached it. At first the scientists thought it was some kind of meteorite, but further analysis revealed something extraordinary. This artifact was artificial. Someone, or something, had placed it there deliberately. News of the discovery spread quickly, sparking both excitement and fear around the world. Governments scrambled to take control of the situation, while conspiracy theories ran rampant online. Was this proof of extraterrestrial life? Had aliens visited Earth thousands of years ago? No one knew for sure, but everyone wanted answers. The artifact became the focus of intense scrutiny, with teams of researchers working day and night to unlock its secrets. And then, just as suddenly as it had been discovered, the artifact activated. No one knows exactly how it happened. Some say it was triggered by a stray electrical current. Others believe it responded to human curiosity. Whatever the cause, the moment the artifact came to life, the skies above Earth split open. Literally. It was as though reality itself had torn apart, revealing a hidden dimension beyond the stars. From this rift emerged massive ships. Destroyers so large they blocked out the sun. Their hulls gleamed with an otherworldly light, and their sheer size dwarfed even the tallest skyscrapers on Earth. These were not mere spaceships. They were fortresses bristling with weapons and surrounded by shimmering energy shields. For a brief moment, the world fell silent. Billions of people stared up at the sky, their hearts pounding with a mix of awe and terror. Who were these visitors? Why had they come? And what did they want? The questions raced through everyone's minds, but no answers came. Instead, the ships simply hovered there, silent and unmoving, casting long shadows across the planet below. It was as if they were waiting, for what no one could say. While humanity reeled from shock aboard the largest of the star destroyers, known as the Sovereign, the council members gathered in their grand chamber. The room was dimly lit, with holographic displays floating in midair, showing real-time images of Earth and its inhabitants. The council members were tall, elegant beings with elongated limbs and translucent skin that glowed faintly in the dark. They spoke in hushed tones, their voices calm yet tinged with unease. "This wasn't supposed to happen," muttered Councillor Vren, his pale eyes fixed on the hologram of Earth. His voice carried a note of frustration, rare for someone of his stature. According to their calculations, humanity should have been centuries away from discovering the artifact. The beacon embedded within it was designed to signal advanced species ready for contact, but humanity was nowhere near that level of development, or so they had believed. Now, thanks to their reckless curiosity, the timetable had collapsed. "Counselor, Lyra, a slender being with flowing silver hair, leaned forward, her expression grim. "We underestimated them," she said softly. "Look at their technology. Look at how quickly they adapted." She gestured toward another hologram, which displayed data collected from Earth's atmosphere. Traces of experimental nanotechnology, advanced quantum computers, and even rudimentary attempts at artificial intelligence were evident. Humanity wasn't just catching up to the rest of the galaxy. They were leaping ahead. "What do we do now?" asked Councillor Tarn, the youngest member of the council. His youthful features betrayed his nervousness. "They've seen us. They know we're here. We can't just leave." "No, we can't," agreed Vren, his tone firm. "But neither can we allow them to continue unchecked. If they keep progressing at this rate, they'll become a threat, not just to us, but to the entire galaxy." The council fell silent, each member lost in their thoughts. For millennia, they had dominated the galaxy through superior technology and psychological manipulation. They had always been the ones in control, the ones calling the shots. But now, for the first time, they faced a challenge they hadn't anticipated. Humanity was unpredictable, defiant, and unafraid. Unlike other species who cowered in fear or submitted without resistance, humans seemed determined to fight back, even against overwhelming odds. Back on Earth, panic gave way to action. Governments around the world convened emergency meetings, trying to make sense of the situation. Military forces mobilized, preparing for the worst, while scientists worked tirelessly to analyze the artifact and understand the nature of the visitors. Social media exploded with theories and speculation, ranging from hopeful messages of peace to wild claims of impending doom. Amidst the chaos, one thing became clear. Humanity would not go down without a fight. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a brilliant astrophysicist based in Chile, found herself thrust into the spotlight. Her groundbreaking work on quantum entanglement had already earned her international recognition, but now she was tasked with leading humanity's response to the alien presence. Alongside a team of experts, she began studying the artifact in detail, hoping to unlock its secrets and turn them to humanity's advantage. Meanwhile, ordinary citizens played their part too, sharing observations and intelligence gathered through telescopes, cameras, and drones. It was a ragtag effort, but it united humanity in ways no one had thought possible. As days turned into weeks, the standoff continued. The council attempted to establish communication, broadcasting messages in dozens of languages across electromagnetic frequencies. To their horror, humanity responded, not with panic or submission, but with defiance. Amateur radio operators broadcast taunts and insults. Military forces tested their anti-aircraft systems despite knowing they stood no chance, and social media erupted with memes mocking the invaders. For every attempt at intimidation, humanity countered with ridicule. This behavior baffled the council. No other species had ever reacted this way to their presence. Most surrendered without resistance, cowed by the sheer might of the Concorde's fleet. But humans laughed at them. On board the Sovereign, tensions reached a boiling point. The council convened an emergency session where tempers flared. "We underestimated them," shouted Councillor Lyra, slamming her fist against the table. Scans showed rapid advancements in Earth's defenses, including orbital platforms armed with plasma cannons and swarms of AI-controlled fighter drones. Even worse, intercepted transmissions hinted at a new weapon, a device capable of destabilizing their energy shields. Fear began to creep into their ranks. For millennia, the Concorde had dominated the galaxy through superior technology and psychological warfare. But humanity refused to play by their rules. Instead of bowing to fear, they embraced it, channeling it into creativity and resilience. And so the stage was set for a confrontation unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. On one side stood the mighty Galactic Concorde, rulers of countless worlds and masters of advanced technology. On the other side stood humanity, a young and chaotic species armed with little more than determination and ingenuity. The question was no longer whether humanity could survive, but whether they could thrive. The standoff between Earth and the Galactic Concorde stretched on, a tense stalemate that gripped the entire planet. Humanity's initial shock had given way to a strange mix of fear, defiance, and determination. The Star Destroyers loomed in the sky like silent gods, their presence both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Yet, despite their overwhelming power, they did nothing. They didn't attack, they didn't communicate clearly, and they didn't leave. It was as if they were waiting. For what? No one knew. But humanity wasn't about to sit idly by while its fate hung in the balance. On board the Sovereign, the Nye, Council members grew increasingly uneasy. Their plan had been simple: activate the beacon when humanity reached a certain level of technological advancement, then step in to guide them toward integration into galactic society. This process had worked for countless other species across the galaxy, ensuring stability and order under the Concord's watchful eye. But humans weren't following the script. Instead of cowering in fear or bowing to their supposed superiors, humanity responded with boldness, and worse, humor. Memes mocking the alien ships flooded social media platforms. Amateur radio operators broadcast insults directly at the destroyers, and even children drew cartoons depicting the invaders as clumsy, oversized robots. To the Council, this behavior was incomprehensible. No other species had ever dared to mock them. Not once, not ever. Councillor Vren paced the chamber restlessly, his translucent skin glowing faintly in the dim light. "This is unprecedented," he muttered, addressing the others. "They're treating us like some kind of joke." His voice carried a note of disbelief bordering on anger. For beings who prided themselves on control, being laughed at was an insult they couldn't tolerate. Councillor Lyra, seated nearby, nodded grimly. Her sharp features betrayed her frustration. "We underestimated them," she said again, her tone clipped. "They're not just primitive, they're chaotic, unpredictable, dangerous." Meanwhile, back on Earth, humanity was proving exactly how dangerous it could be. Dr. Elena Vasquez and her team worked around the clock, pouring every ounce of energy into studying the artifact recovered from Antarctica. What they discovered was astonishing. The object wasn't just a beacon, it was a repository of advanced alien technology, encoded in patterns so complex they seemed almost magical. Using cutting-edge quantum computers and algorithms developed specifically for this purpose, Vasquez and her team began deciphering the data stored within the artifact. Each breakthrough brought new possibilities, from revolutionary energy sources to blueprints for weapons capable of rivaling those aboard the Star Destroyers. But unlocking the secrets of the artifact wasn't enough. Humanity needed more than knowledge, it needed action. Under the banner of the United Nations Emergency Defense Initiative, UNADI, global leaders pooled resources and expertise to develop countermeasures against the invaders. Engineers repurposed existing technologies, creating prototype weapons powered by principles derived from the artifact. Factories churned out drones equipped with AI systems designed to swarm and overwhelm larger targets. Even ordinary citizens contributed, sharing observations and ideas through online forums. For the first time in history, humanity felt united, not by politics or religion but by survival. As weeks turned into months, the Council decided to take matters into their own hands. Enough was enough. Humanity's defiance had gone too far, and it was time to remind them who held the real power. A limited strike was authorized, an operation meant to demonstrate the Concord's might without causing irreversible damage. 3 cities were selected as targets: Tokyo, London, and New York. These urban centers were chosen not only for their strategic importance, but also because their destruction would send a clear message to the rest of the world: resist, and you will be annihilated. However, before the attack could commence, something extraordinary happened. Humanity struck first. It started with a series of coordinated maneuvers led by UNITI. Swarms of AI-controlled drones launched from hidden bases, targeting the outer defenses of the Concorde fleet. Though individually small and weak compared to the massive destroyers, the drones moved with precision, exploiting vulnerabilities in the enemy's shield systems. At the same time, engineers activated a prototype weapon based on the artifact's technology. a device capable of destabilizing the energy shields protecting the Star Destroyers. The weapon fired a concentrated beam of quantum energy, striking one of the smaller vessels and causing its shields to flicker and collapse. The effect was immediate and devastating. Without their protective barriers, the Concorde ships became vulnerable to further attacks. Plasma cannons mounted on Earth's hastily constructed orbital platforms opened fire, raining destruction down upon the invaders. Fighter jets scrambled to join the fray, their pilots guided by real-time data feeds provided by ground-based radar stations. Even civilian satellites played a role, relaying critical information to command centers around the globe. For the first time since the arrival of the Star Destroyers, humanity fought back, and fought hard. Aboard the Sovereign, chaos erupted. Alarms blared throughout the ship as reports poured in from damaged vessels. Counselor Tarn stared at the holographic displays in disbelief. "How is this possible?" he whispered, his youthful confidence replaced by sheer terror. The Council had assumed humanity incapable of mounting any significant resistance, let alone launching a coordinated assault. Yet here they were, holding their own against the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Counselor Vren slammed his fist against the table, his earlier calm replaced by barely contained rage. "This changes everything," he snarled. "Recall all forces. We need to reassess our strategy." But it was too late. The damage had already been done. Several Concorde ships retreated into the rift, their hulls scorched and battered. Others attempted to regroup, only to find themselves overwhelmed by relentless waves of drones and orbital bombardments. Humanity's ingenuity and adaptability had turned the tide of battle, forcing the invaders onto the defensive. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted as news of the victory spread. People poured into the streets cheering and waving flags. Social media lit up with messages of triumph, and headlines proclaimed humanity's unexpected success. For the first time, people dared to believe that they might actually win this fight. Leaders addressed the public, urging caution but also expressing pride in what had been achieved. "Today," declared the Secretary General of the United Nations during a televised speech, "we have shown the galaxy that humanity cannot be intimidated. We are small, yes, but we are fierce." Despite the jubilation, there was no time to rest. Dr. Vasquez and her team continued working tirelessly, refining the technologies derived from the artifact and preparing for the next phase of the conflict. Military commanders analyzed the battle data, identifying weaknesses in the Concorde fleet and planning future operations. Civilians volunteered en masse, offering their skills and resources to support the war effort. Humanity had tasted victory, and it fueled their resolve to push forward, on board. The Sovereign, the Council convened another emergency session. Tempers flared as blame shifted between members, each accusing the others of miscalculations and poor judgment. "We should never have underestimated them," shouted Councillor Lyra, her voice echoing through the chamber. "Now look where we are, on the brink of defeat." "And whose fault is that?" snapped Vren, rounding on her. "You were the one advocating for patience, remember? You thought we could control them." The argument escalated until Councillor Tarn interrupted, his voice trembling but firm. "Enough! Bickering won't solve anything. We need a plan, now." Reluctantly, the Council turned its attention to damage control. Scans revealed that humanity's technological advancements were accelerating at an alarming rate. If left unchecked, they would soon surpass even the Concorde's capabilities. Something drastic had to be done, but what? After hours of heated debate, a decision was made. Councillor Vren proposed opening direct negotiations with humanity, hoping to salvage what remained of their authority. "If we can't crush them," he reasoned, "perhaps we can reason with them, offer them terms they cannot refuse." 3. Idea was risky, but the Council had little choice. Humanity had proven itself unpredictable, resourceful, and unafraid. Continuing the fight risked total annihilation, not just for Earth but for the Concorde itself. With heavy hearts, the Council agreed to extend an olive branch, Unknown to them, humanity was ready. Dr. Vasquez received the message from the Concord with a mixture of excitement and suspicion. "They want to talk?" she asked aloud, staring at the screen displaying the alien transmission. "Why now?" Her assistant shrugged. "Maybe they're scared." Vasquez smiled faintly. "Good. Let them be scared." As preparations began for the historic meeting, humanity reflected on how far they'd come. From frightened bystanders staring up at the sky, they had become warriors fighting for their very existence. And though the battle was far from over, one thing was certain: humanity had found strength in adversity. They had faced the unknown and refused to back down. Against all odds, they had stood tall, and they weren't about to stop now. The message from the Galactic Concord arrived unexpectedly, breaking the tense silence that had settled over Earth after humanity's surprising victory. It was a simple transmission, broadcast on frequencies monitored by governments and amateur radio operators alike. The voice on the other end was calm but tinged with urgency, speaking in heavily accented English. "We wish to negotiate. Cease hostilities immediately and we will extend terms for peace." For a moment, the world held its breath. Humanity had fought hard, defying an empire they once thought invincible, but now the invaders were asking to talk. Was this a trick, a ploy to buy time and regroup? Or was it genuine, a sign that the Concord had finally realized humanity wasn't going to back down? Dr. Elena Vasquez sat in her makeshift command center, surrounded by blinking monitors and stacks of data printouts. She stared at the decoded message, her mind racing. This was uncharted territory. Humanity had never negotiated with aliens before, let alone ones who had tried to intimidate them into submission just weeks earlier. Her team buzzed around her, debating the implications. Some argued that negotiations could be a trap. Others believed it was an opportunity to secure Earth's future without further bloodshed. Whatever their intentions, Vasquez said firmly, addressing the room, "We can't afford to ignore them, but we also can't trust them blindly." She turned to a young engineer standing nearby. "Get me UNEDI leadership on the line. We need to decide how to respond, and fast." Within hours, global leaders convened in a virtual summit. Representatives from every corner of the planet joined the discussion, their faces filling screens arranged in a grid. Tensions ran high as opinions clashed. Military advisors urged caution, warning that any retreat might embolden the Concord to launch another attack. Diplomats, however, emphasized the importance of seizing this chance to end the conflict peacefully. After hours of heated debate, a consensus emerged. Humanity would agree to negotiate, but only on its own terms. A response was sent back to the Concord. The message was concise and firm. "State your terms openly, or we resume hostilities. Humanity does not bargain from a position of weakness." It was a bold statement, one designed to convey strength while leaving room for diplomacy. As the transmission echoed across space, billions of people waited anxiously for the reply. On board. The Sovereign. The council members received the message with mixed reactions. Councillor Vren clenched his fists, his translucent skin glowing, faintly with suppressed anger. "They dare dictate terms to us," he spat, pacing the chamber. "After everything we've done?" Councillor Lyra raised a hand, silencing him. "Enough," she said sharply. "We have no choice. If we refuse, they'll destroy what remains of our fleet. You saw what they're capable of. They won't hesitate to finish us off." Vren glared at her but said nothing. He knew she was right. Humanity's counterattack had exposed vulnerabilities the Council hadn't anticipated. Their shields, once thought impenetrable, had been breached. Their ships, once symbols of invincibility, had been damaged beyond repair. Worse still, scans showed continued advancements in Earth's technology. Every day, humanity grew stronger and more dangerous. Reluctantly, the Council drafted a formal proposal. They offered to withdraw all forces from Earth's orbit and dismantle any remaining assets in exchange for assurances that humanity would not pursue them. Additionally, they promised non-interference in Earth's affairs moving forward. It was a humiliating concession for beings accustomed to dominance, but survival took precedence over pride. When the terms reached Earth, they sparked intense debate. Some hailed the offer as a triumph, proof that humanity's defiance had paid off. Others warned against trusting the conquered, pointing out that their promises meant little if they decided to return later with greater force. Dr. Vasquez found herself at the center of the argument, tasked with evaluating the proposal's technical aspects. They're offering access to their databases, she explained during a briefing with Unity leadership. Blueprints, schematics, even details about their energy systems. If we accept, we'll gain knowledge far beyond anything we currently possess. But there's a catch. She paused, her expression grim. They want guarantees. Specifically, they want us to swear we won't use this technology against them, or anyone else. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the implications. Accepting the deal would mean sacrificing the ability to explore new frontiers aggressively. Rejecting it, however, risked reigniting the war and potentially losing everything. In the end, the decision came down to a vote. By a narrow margin, humanity agreed to the terms, but with modifications. Any remaining conquered assets in Earth's orbit would be dismantled under human supervision, and all data related to their technology would be handed over immediately. Furthermore, the Council would publicly acknowledge humanity's sovereignty and vow never to interfere again. As the agreement was finalized, preparations began for the historic meeting. The location chosen was neutral ground, an abandoned space station orbiting Earth that had been repurposed for the occasion. Both sides agreed to send representatives, though distrust lingered on both ends. For humanity, the delegation included Dr. Vasquez, several military officials and diplomats fluent in multiple languages. For the Concord, a small contingent of council members led by Councilor Lyra boarded a shuttle bound for the station. The day of the negotiation arrived, marked by a mix of anticipation and apprehension. Cameras captured every step of the process, broadcasting live feeds to audiences worldwide. Billions watched as the two delegations met face-to-face for the first time in history. The contrast between them was striking. The council members were tall and elegant, their elongated limbs and glowing skin making them appear almost ethereal. Humanity's representatives, by comparison, looked ordinary, flawed, fragile, yet undeniably determined. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "You came here seeking peace," she began, addressing the council. "Prove to us that you mean it." Councilor Lyra inclined her head slightly, acknowledging the challenge. "We understand your skepticism," she replied. "But know this. We underestimated you once, and it cost us dearly. We do not wish to repeat that mistake." Negotiations stretched on for days, each side carefully scrutinizing the other's proposals. Humanity insisted on retaining control over the recovered Concord technology, arguing that it belonged to Earth now. The Council reluctantly agreed, though not without reservations. In return, they demanded assurances that humanity wouldn't seek revenge or attempt to expand into conquered territory. These conditions were accepted, albeit begrudgingly. Throughout the discussions, tensions simmered beneath the surface. Old wounds remained raw, and trust was slow to build. Yet, as agreements were reached and signatures affixed to digital documents, a fragile sense of cooperation took root. When the final accord was announced, relief swept through both delegations and the world. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted once more. Fireworks lit up the night sky, and crowds gathered in public squares to cheer. Social media flooded with messages of hope and unity, as humanity marveled at what it had achieved. Against all odds, they had stared down an interstellar empire and forced it to back down. It was a victory not just of strength, but of resilience and ingenuity. For Dr. Vasquez, the moment was bittersweet. Standing atop a hill overlooking a sprawling research facility, she gazed at the remnants of a Concorde destroyer preserved as a monument to humanity's triumph. Behind her, scientists worked tirelessly, studying the alien technology and pushing the boundaries of human knowledge. The road ahead would be long and uncertain, but for the first time, humanity had a real chance to shape its destiny. As the Sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. Vasquez allowed herself a small smile. "We did it," she whispered, her voice carried away by the wind. "We stood our ground and we won." But deep down, she knew the fight wasn't truly over. The galaxy was vast, filled with mysteries and dangers yet unknown. Humanity had proven itself capable of facing those challenges, but the journey was only beginning. The aftermath of the negotiations marked a turning point, not just for humanity, but for the Galactic Concord as well. For the first time in its long and storied history, the Council found itself retreating, not because of military defeat, but because of an unforeseen adversary, human ingenuity and resolve. As the conquered fleet began dismantling its remaining assets in Earth's orbit, the Council members aboard the Sovereign grappled with their failure. The once unshakable rulers of the galaxy now faced a crisis of identity. Who were they if they could no longer dominate weaker species? What did it mean to lose control? Counselor Vren paced the observation deck of the destroyer, his elongated frame casting faint shadows against the dimly lit walls. Through the massive viewport, he watched as one of their ships, a vessel that had symbolized Concord supremacy for centuries, was methodically stripped apart by human engineers. Each piece of technology was catalogued, studied, and repurposed, under strict supervision. To him, it felt like watching a proud empire crumble into dust. "They're taking everything," Vren muttered bitterly, his voice low enough that only Counselor Lyra, standing nearby, could hear. "Our weapons, our shields, even our propulsion systems. Do you realize what this means? We've handed them the keys to the galaxy." Lyra turned to face him, her glowing eyes narrowing slightly. "And whose fault is that?" She shot back, her tone sharp. "You wanted to negotiate, you said we couldn't win, now look where we are, humiliated and weakened." Vren stopped pacing and glared at her. "I didn't see you offering any better solutions," he snapped. "We underestimated them, yes, but how could we have known they'd fight back so fiercely? No other species has ever resisted us like this. That's because no other species is like them," Lyra replied, her voice softer now but still firm. She gestured toward the viewport, where Earth hung suspended in the blackness of space, vibrant and alive. "They don't follow rules. They don't bow to fear. And worst of all, they learn faster than anyone we've encountered. If we hadn't pulled back when we did," she trailed off, leaving the thought unfinished but clear enough. Humanity wasn't just a threat to the conquered. It was a force of nature. Meanwhile, aboard the neutral space station where the negotiations had taken place, Dr. Elena Vasquez reflected on the monumental shift unfolding before her eyes. The agreement signed between humanity and the Concord was more than just a treaty. It was a declaration. For millennia, the Concord had dictated the terms of galactic existence, controlling which species rose and fell based on their usefulness. But now, humanity had forced them to step aside, and in doing so, rewritten the rules of engagement. As she sat in the station's conference room, surrounded by holographic displays showing schematics of alien technology, Vasquez allowed herself a moment of quiet pride. This wasn't just her victory. It belonged to everyone who had contributed, from scientists and engineers to ordinary citizens sharing observations through social media. Humanity had come together in ways no one had thought possible, united by a common goal, survival. Yet despite the triumph, Vasquez knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. The Concord's technology was advanced beyond anything humanity had ever seen, and unlocking its full potential would take years, if not decades, of research. Moreover, there was no guarantee the Council wouldn't return someday, emboldened by new weapons or strategies. Trust was fragile, and peace was never guaranteed. Back on Earth, the global response to the treaty was mixed. While many celebrated humanity's newfound status as a galactic power, others warned against complacency. Protests erupted in major cities, with some groups accusing world leaders of making too many concessions. "Why should we let them leave without punishing them?" shouted a protester outside the United Nations headquarters in New York. "They came here to conquer us. They deserve justice." Others, however, saw the bigger picture. In classrooms, lecture halls, and community centers around the world, people gathered to discuss what the future might hold. Teachers explained the significance of quantum entanglement and nanotechnology derived from the artifact. Engineers demonstrated prototype devices powered by alien energy sources. Even children played games inspired by the conflict, imagining themselves as heroes defending Earth against invaders. Humanity's collective imagination had been ignited, sparking a cultural renaissance unlike anything seen before. At the same time, governments worked tirelessly to integrate the newly acquired technology into existing systems. Military forces upgraded their arsenals with plasma cannons and shield disruptors, reverse-engineered from Concorde designs. Space agencies launched satellites equipped with advanced sensors capable of detecting anomalies in deep space. Medical researchers experimented with nanobots designed to heal injuries at an unprecedented rate. Every field of science and industry benefited from the influx of knowledge, propelling humanity forward at breakneck speed. But progress came with risks. Some feared that humanity's rapid advancement might outpace its ability to govern itself responsibly. Debates raged over ethical concerns. Should AI-controlled drones be used for surveillance? Was it safe to experiment with alien bioengineering techniques? Could humanity resist the temptation to use its newfound power aggressively? These questions lingered in the background, reminders that technological superiority alone didn't guarantee wisdom. Amidst these developments, the Concorde prepared to leave Earth's solar system. One by one, the Star Destroyers retreated into the rift that had brought them here, vanishing into the unknown. Their departure was broadcast live across the globe, capturing the attention of billions. As the last ship disappeared, cheers erupted in cities worldwide. Strangers hugged each other, tears streaming down their faces. For the first time in months, hope replaced fear. On board. The Sovereign. The mood was somber. The council members convened one final time before returning home, their expressions heavy with regret and shame. Councillor Tarn broke the silence, his youthful voice trembling. "What do we tell the rest of the Concorde?" he asked. "How do we explain this?" Vren sighed deeply, leaning back in his chair. "We tell them the truth," he said quietly. "That humanity is different. That they cannot be controlled or intimidated. That if we ever try to interfere with them again, we risk losing everything." Lyra nodded slowly, her earlier anger giving way to resignation. "Perhaps this is a lesson we needed to learn," she admitted. "For too long we've relied on fear to maintain order. Maybe it's time we considered another way." As the council dispersed, each member carried the weight of their failure and the seeds of change. The Conquered had ruled the galaxy for millennia, shaping civilizations according to its will. But now, thanks to humanity, cracks had begun to form in its foundation. Whether those cracks would widen or heal remained to be seen. Weeks later, life on Earth began to settle into a new rhythm. The initial euphoria of victory gave way to a sense of cautious optimism. People returned to their routines, but the memory of the conflict lingered, inspiring acts of kindness, innovation, and unity. In schools, students learned about the event as part of their history curriculum. Museums displayed artifacts recovered from Antarctica alongside replicas of conquered technology, celebrating humanity's resilience and creativity. Dr. Vasquez continued leading efforts to study the Concorde's technology, working closely with international teams to ensure transparency and collaboration. Her work became a symbol of humanity's potential, proving that even the smallest actions, like activating an ancient beacon, could spark extraordinary change. When asked during an interview about the future, she smiled and said simply, "We've shown the universe that we're not afraid to stand up for ourselves. Now it's time to show what else we can achieve." Far above the planet, the remnants of the conquered fleet slipped silently through the void, carrying with them lessons they hadn't anticipated learning. Humanity had proven itself unpredictable, resourceful, and unafraid. Against all odds, they had stood tall and won. But as Both sides looked toward the stars. One question lingered in the hearts of all who dared to dream. What comes next? Months had passed since the conquered fleet vanished into the rift, leaving Earth's skies clear and calm once more. The initial euphoria of victory had settled into a quieter, but no less profound sense of accomplishment. Humanity had stared down an interstellar empire and won. But this triumph wasn't just about survival, it was about transformation. The encounter with the Galactic Concord had awakened something within humanity, a newfound confidence, unity, and determination to explore what lay beyond their own planet. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood atop a hill overlooking a sprawling research facility nestled in the Chilean desert. Behind her loomed the skeletal remains of a conquered destroyer, preserved as a monument to humanity's resilience. It served as both a reminder of the past and a symbol of the future, a testament to how far they'd come and how much further they could go. As she gazed at the massive structure, her mind drifted to the countless hours spent deciphering its secrets. Every piece of alien technology had been meticulously studied, reverse-engineered, and adapted for human use. Plasma cannons originally designed to annihilate entire cities were now being used to deflect asteroids on collision courses with Earth. Energy shields that once protected invincible warships now safeguarded satellites orbiting the planet. And quantum entanglement, the very principle behind the artifact, had revolutionized global communications, making information transfer instantaneous across vast distances. But these advancements weren't without challenges. The rapid pace of innovation brought ethical dilemmas that humanity hadn't fully anticipated. Governments debated the implications of weaponizing alien tech, while scientists grappled with the risks of meddling with forces they barely understood. Some feared that humanity might become too reliant on borrowed knowledge, losing sight of its own ingenuity. Others worried about the potential consequences if this technology fell into the wrong hands. Yet, despite these concerns, there was a shared understanding. Humanity couldn't afford to turn back now. The galaxy was vast, filled with mysteries waiting to be uncovered, and dangers lurking in the shadows. Around the world, ordinary citizens played their part in shaping this new era. Amateur astronomers scanned the night sky for signs of activity beyond Earth's solar system. Engineers tinkered with prototypes inspired by conquered designs, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Even children dreamed big, imagining themselves as explorers charting unknown worlds. Social media buzzed with ideas and debates, from discussions about interstellar travel to fan art depicting humanity's next great adventure. For the first time, people felt connected not just to each other but to the cosmos itself. In classrooms, teachers introduced students to concepts once thought impossible. Quantum mechanics, astrophysics, and bioengineering became household topics, sparking curiosity and ambition in young minds. Textbooks were rewritten to include the events of the Concord conflict, framing them not as a tale of fear but as a story of courage and ingenuity. Museums displayed artifacts recovered from Antarctica, alongside replicas of conquered ships, celebrating humanity's ability to adapt and overcome. The message was clear: humanity's journey was only beginning. Meanwhile, governments worked tirelessly to establish frameworks for managing the influx of alien technology. International treaties were signed, ensuring transparency and cooperation between nations. The United Nations Emergency Defense Initiative, UNEDI, evolved into a permanent body tasked with overseeing Earth's defense systems and monitoring potential threats from space. Military forces continued upgrading their arsenals, preparing for scenarios that seemed straight out of science fiction. At the same time, space agencies launched ambitious missions to explore nearby planets and moons, searching for resources and clues about the universe's origins. Back aboard the Sovereign, the council members of the Galactic Concord faced a reckoning of their own. Their retreat from Earth had sent shockwaves through the galactic community, raising questions about their authority and competence. Other species, long oppressed under conquered rule, began whispering among themselves, wondering if humanity's defiance signaled the start of a larger rebellion. Could they follow Earth's example and challenge their overlords? Or would they remain cowed by centuries of fear? Counselor Vren sat alone in his quarters, staring at holographic projections of Earth. He replayed images of humanity's counterattack, the swarms of drones overwhelming their defenses, the experimental shield, disruptors disabling their ships, the sheer audacity of a species refusing to submit. To him, it felt like watching the collapse of an empire he had sworn to protect. Yet, amidst the bitterness, a small part of him admired humanity's spirit. They had proven themselves unpredictable, creative, and unafraid, qualities the conquered had forgotten long ago. Counselor Lyra, meanwhile, led efforts to reform the Council's approach to diplomacy. "We can't keep ruling through fear," she argued during heated sessions. "Earth showed us that intimidation only breeds resistance. If we want to maintain order, we need to find another way." Her words sparked fierce debates, with some council members dismissing her ideas as naive. But others listened, recognizing the truth in her words. Change wouldn't come easily, but it was necessary if the Concord hoped to survive in a galaxy where humanity now held sway. As tensions simmered within the Council, humanity looked toward the stars with renewed purpose. Dr. Vasquez addressed a global audience during a televised ceremony marking the completion of Earth's first interstellar probe. Standing before a crowd of dignitaries, scientists, and ordinary citizens, she spoke with quiet confidence. "Today," she said, her voice steady yet filled with emotion, "we take our first step beyond the confines of our solar system. This probe carries not weapons or shields, but messages of hope, curiosity, and peace. We don't know what lies ahead, but we do know this: we are ready." The launch of the probe was broadcast live, capturing the attention of billions. As the sleek craft soared into the heavens, cheers erupted around the world. People hugged. Strangers cried openly and waved flags representing every nation on Earth. For the first time, humanity truly felt united, not by borders or ideologies, but by a shared dream of exploration. Far above the planet, the probe hurtled through space, carrying humanity's hopes and fears into the unknown. Encoded within its memory banks were images of Earth's diverse landscapes, recordings of music and language, and mathematical equations meant to convey intelligence. It also carried a final message spoken by Dr. Vasquez herself. "To whoever finds this, we are small, but we are fierce. Do not mistake our curiosity for weakness." Years later, as humanity continued to push the boundaries of what was possible, the lessons of the conquered conflict remained etched in collective memory. The experience had taught them humility, resilience, and the importance of unity. It had shown them that even the smallest actions, like activating an ancient beacon, could spark extraordinary change. And it had reminded them that the universe was vast, full of wonders and dangers alike. On the day the probe finally reached its destination, a distant star system teeming with life, humanity received confirmation that they were not alone. Signals returned from the probe revealed evidence of intelligent beings, their technology advanced but distinct from the Concords. For a brief moment, panic rippled across Earth. Would these new aliens prove hostile? Would humanity face another existential threat? But then came the breakthrough. Through careful analysis of the signals, researchers discovered patterns suggesting peaceful intent. Messages exchanged between Earth and the alien civilization hinted at mutual curiosity and respect. Humanity had found allies, or at least neighbors, among the stars. Standing atop the same hill where she had reflected on the Concorde's departure, Dr. Vasquez watched the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and purple. Beside her stood a young girl, holding a model spaceship crafted from scraps of metal and plastic. The child looked up at her with wide eyes, asking, "Do you think we'll ever meet them?" Vasquez smiled, placing a hand on the girl's shoulder. "I don't know," she replied softly. "But if we do, I'm sure we'll make them proud." And so, humanity stepped boldly into the future, guided by the lessons of the past. They had stared into the abyss and found strength in the darkness.